Hi students, we are going to be learning about degrees versus radians today. So first, we know what degrees are. Degrees are a unit of angle measure, okay? And we know when we have a circle, here is 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, and then this is also 360 degrees. So we know 360 degrees equals a full circle. How many degrees equals a right angle? A right angle, that's 90 degrees. And then how many degrees equals a straight line or a half of a circle? See the straight line, which is a half of a circle, that's 180 degrees. Okay. Now, what is a radian? In math, we call a radian a pure measure based on the radius of a circle. So that's where the name radians come from, because it's based on the radius. A radian is the angle made when we take the radius and wrap it around the circle. Okay, so it's the angle made when the radius is wrapped around the circle. So this length here, we took R, which is the radius, and we wrapped it around the circle. So we kind of took this and we curved it. Okay, so that's 1 radian. 1 radian. Now, 1 radian, how much is 1 radian? Well, in a half circle, there are pi radians, which is also 180 degrees. Now we know that pi is 3.14 and then a bunch of numbers. Oh, hold on, I'm sorry. Let's see. Okay, we know pi is 3.14 and it's pi radians, so 3.14 radians. We know that this is 1 radian, and then if we went another radian, that's another radian, and another radian. If you can see this, so 1, 2, 3 radians, and then 0.14 radians. So that's why half of a circle is pi radians, 180 degrees. And then 1 radian equals 180 degrees divided by pi. In degrees, it's 57.2958 degrees. So that 1 radian here, if we were looking at the degrees of that, it's 57.2958 degrees. Okay. Let's go to the next page. All right, so here, if we look at a circle, we know that this is 0 degrees, and it is also 0 radians. 90 degrees is pi over 2. It's half of pi. Okay, 90 degrees is pi over 2, half of pi. 180 degrees is pi radians. 270 degrees is 3 pi over 2, and 360 degrees is 2 pi. Now, sometimes you may see it instead of pi over 2, you may see it in a decimal. So if you take your calculator and you put in pi over 2, that's 1.57. Now, that is not exact. That is only approximate. So mathematicians, they like to use the pi, okay? This is just approximate. We know that pi radians, pi is just 3.14. So it's about 3.14 radians. And again, we don't really need the approximate one. We just want to use the pi. I just wanted to show you that you can get decimals for your answer. 4.71. And then 2 pi is 6.28 radians. Now, again, we're not really worried about these ones. This is the most important part. Muy importante. All right, now, what if we didn't want to memorize these and we needed to convert degrees to radians and radians to degrees? So we know that 1 degree is pi over 180, and 1 radian is 180 over pi degrees. So in order to change from degrees to radians, we need to multiply by pi over 180. So let's practice this here. Convert 36 degrees to radians. That's 36 times pi over 180. Okay. Now, we want to leave the pi there, so don't do anything with the pi quite yet. If you multiply 36 times pi, it's 36 pi. And this is 1 times 180, which is 180. Now, what we want to do is just simplify the numbers. And in order to simplify, if you have a calculator like this, you can just put in 36 over 180. You'll see a decimal, but if you hit math, and then this means convert to a fraction, and hit enter, it tells you the fraction. If not, you can simplify. So it's how many times does 36 go into 180? And if you don't know that off the top of your head, you can just keep dividing by a smaller number. So I know that 36 divided by 2 is 18. And I know that 180 divided by 2 is 90. Okay. Now, I know that 9 goes into both of these numbers. 9 goes into 18 2 times. 9 goes into 90 10 times. I can simplify it one more time because I know that 2 goes into 10. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and I don't need to write the 1, so I'm just going to write pi. That's like 1 pi. And 10 divided by 2 is 5. So my answer is pi over 5. And if you used the fraction 1 over 5, then it's just 1 pi over 5. So pi over 5. Okay, if you need to rewind and watch that again, go ahead. I'm going to keep going. Now I'm going to try to do radians to degrees. So for radians, we need to multiply radians by 180 over pi. So here we have 1.6 because remember I talked about how you can have decimals for radians sometimes. Okay, so 1.6 radians, I'm going to take 1.6 and multiply by 180 over pi. So this is 1.6 times 180. That equals 288. And I want to divide by pi, which is 91.67. So about 92 degrees. I'm just rounding. I rounded up because this 6 is more than 5, so the 1 turns into a 2. Okay, let's try this one. 150 times, I'm going from degrees to radians. So degrees to radians, we multiply by pi over 180. So that's 150 pi over 180. I'm going to divide by 10, so those zeros go away. 15 pi over 18. And then I know that 3 goes into both of those numbers. So 15 divided by 3 is 5, and 18 divided by 3 is 6. And then you cannot simplify anymore. So that's 5 pi over 6. Okay, and then last one, radians. This is radians because we have a pi here, to degrees. So we multiply 5 pi over 6, which we just got, multiply by 180 over pi. Now, these pi's are going to cancel out when you multiply. And we can just multiply 5 times 180. So 5 times 180 is 900 over 6 times 1 is 6. So 900 divided by 6, that's 150 degrees. And we know that's correct because we just did that conversion here. 150 is 5 pi over 6. 5 pi over 6 is 150.